Bringing you the news, the story behind the story. Hoping to convince you that reality is usually scoffed at and that illusion is usually king. But in the battle for the survival of Christian civilization, it's going to be reality and not illusion or delusion that's going to determine what the future will bring. And I need to remind you the views expressed here are not necessarily those of the owner's management, staff, sponsors, or supporters of the station you're listening to. They happen to be my views, and well, for the next hour, they're going to be the views of Bahman Nassiri. And this is a fascinating gentleman. I'm sure you're really going to enjoy what he's has to say, because, you know, most people have a total misconception of what's going on today. We carry a wonderful book. It's called The New Media Monopoly. It's written by a left-wing college professor. And basically, it is his contention that the media is controlled, and I believe, of course, he's right. The media is tightly controlled by 6 major corporations, but, of course, the professor believes, of course, they're on the right-wingers. Now, you talk to the right-wingers, they believe that the left wing controls the media, and they're both wrong. There's a small little group of people, a few thousand people in the middle, who control both political parties and make mockery of our electoral process, and behind them are powerful, secret societies. And when you talk about secret societies, so many people just say they can't believe there's secret societies out there, and yet there really are. And basically, we've encountered them many times. We've been to their headquarters. We've researched this thoroughly, but here's a gentleman who's actually been part and parcel to this himself. And so without further ado, Bahman Nassiri, thank you very much for being with us.
Dr. Stan, it's always a great pleasure to be on your show.
Well, why don't you just tell our listeners just a little bit about your background and how you got involved with this secret organization?
Sure, I would be glad to explain all this, but first, if you allow me, I'd like to say that since the last interview that we had together, a lot has been happening, Dr. Stan. I appeared on the Hagman and Hagman report, and then on Alex Jones's InfoWars, and that was done 4 days ago. And Dr. Stan, now there are thousands of people or opponents or whatever who wish to persecute me. So this raises a question in my mind to ask you, because I'm new at this game, what you must have gone through for many, many years with non-believers. Can I ask you this question about your experiments, your experiences?
Well, I think you have to realize, of course, we're involved in a spiritual battle, and you're going to have to be protected by God. I've had lots of threats against my life. I just don't worry about it. And I used to have threats all the time and all sorts of harassment. But eventually, of course, if you put your faith in the Lord will protect you. And that is certainly, I know that you are certainly become a believer, and that is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to rely on the Lord for your protection. And you're fortunate that you have that. There are many people in the conservative movement talk about these things who cannot rely upon the Lord, and they live in constant fear or terror. But remember, God is the only entity that can protect us from these wicked people, because behind the people who are trying to attack you are the powerful spiritual forces that energize them. This would be my suggestion.
Yes, Dr. Stan. This is
Dr. Stan here at Radio Liberty. Our guest this afternoon is Bahman Nassiri. And Bahman certainly was involved for many years with Masonry. He was then involved with the Illuminati. And basically, of course, he eventually realized that the degree of evil he was involved with. And about 5 months ago, why he gave his life to the Lord at age 60. And then, of course, he has done several of my programs. And because of that, he's been on certainly a number of other very large of radio programs and television programs, and because of that, he's begun getting death threats, and simply had asked me, what do you do when you come under death threats? And I simply told him, there's nothing we can do. This is a spiritual battle. You're going to have to rely on the Lord, and the Lord's kept me going for 50 years, and I'm sure he'll keep Bahman going if that's in his will. But once you give yourself to the Lord, you trust him, and the only thing that's going to let any of you out there in the listening audience or Bahman able to survive the terrible times that lie ahead is our Lord's help. Bahman, you go right ahead and tell our listeners about your background involved with the secret societies.
Yes, Dr. Stan, I would be glad to. First, I must say that, yes, I have been involved in Freemasonry all throughout my life since I was 21 years old. However, I was never involved with the Illuminati, and that will become clear how this system works. Well, I was initiated in Freemasonry at the age of 21 in Iran under the Shah's rule, before the Islamic Revolution. And Freemasonry in Iran, like the way it is in the United States, it's basically a brotherhood of good men who try to do a lot of charities, and they really, truly, in their hearts, they believe that they are doing good things. And, there are Christians, Jewish people, Muslims, they can all be Freemasons. But it took me 40 years to find out that there is a level above that Freemasons are not aware of. The story is quite long, and the best way is for listeners to actually listen to my previous interviews.
As he points out, there are many people who are in Iran who joined the Freemason. There were Jews joined it, Muslims joined it, and they were good people. They wanted to do good. And basically, of course, Masonry talks about helping people, and certainly it's a wonderful and apparently noble movement. But, of course, eventually Bahman discovered there's a level above, certainly, the Masonry. In fact, as Manly P. Hall, who's a 33rd degree Mason and part of this whole network of secret societies, said, Masonry is a fraternity within a fraternity. An outer fraternity made up of good-hearted, well-meaning men who want to do good, but an inner fraternity of people who are studying the Ancorum and Ancanorum. Well, most people have no idea what the Ancorum and Ancanorum are. I didn't. I had to look it up, but it's a secret, and the secret of secrets. The Ancorum and the Ancanorum, and there is a secret behind Masonry at another level which most Masons don't even know exists. Go right ahead, Bahman.
Okay, well, if you look at the back of a dollar bill, most listeners are aware of the pyramid. That shows the all-seeing eye. That is the section right at top of that pyramid. And I can explain what all this means. Imagine normal world population, that is about 7 billion people right now at the bottom of the pyramid. And as you go up the pyramid, you get Freemasons, you get, it's all about power, Dr. Stan. It represents power and control. So as you move up this pyramid, there are different levels where it becomes secret societies that I will name some of them. But right at the top of that pyramid, where the all-seeing eye is, my discoveries have shown that, and by the way, I have documented proof on everything I am saying. I know the things I say are quite hard to believe, but I do have documented proof of everything, which will be released in the future. But right on top of that pyramid, there is a secret society that is called the Eagle. It's a bit different to Freemasons, but in many ways similar. They have meetings once a month, and there are less than 1,000 members, and these are the most powerful bankers, arms manufacturers, oil barons, the most powerful people in the world who have the total control over us. They are the people who make the big decisions. whether it's wars, stock market crashes, these are all pre-planned, or things that we see happening. False flag terrorist attacks, these are all planned. So now there is, between the Freemasons and the Eagles, there is another section, two other sections, occupied by two other secret societies. One is the Skull and Bones. And we all know what important people belong to that society, that secret society, including John Kerry. Well, I'm not going to mention any more names. But, and then there is another section that is occupied by the secret society of the East, and that is called the Roshaniah, which goes back to the 16th century. And it started in the mountains of Afghanistan. And Osama bin Laden was a member. At the age of 21, he was initiated. He would always have refused to say that he was a member, but he was, and he actually participated in kicking the Russians out of Afghanistan and all this. Now imagine if the secret society of the East is Osama bin Laden was a member of, and the secret society of the West, the Skull and Bones with George W. Bush, and the secret society of the East, that is Roshaniah, is a sister branch of the Skull and Bones, then there is a connection there, Dr. Stan. There is a connection between the two. And that would make it interesting. This information would make it interesting for those who believe that 9/11 was a conspiracy. Back to you, Dr. Stan.
Well, I certainly agree. There's no question at all. One only has to watch Building 7 come down. It came down at 5:20 in the afternoon, and we just tell people, go up to the Internet and certainly pull down the various pictures they have of Building 7 coming down. And why did they have all those cameras focused on that building at 5:20? Both twin towers were down by then. There was no suggestion there was going to be a problem with Building 7. It had a mild fire in it, but basically they had 3 or 4 cameras all focused on it, and you can tell it's a controlled demolition because you'll see the center of the roof collapsing in the middle, and then the base of the building goes out. Typical controlled demolition. And if Building 7 was a controlled demolition, then so were the twin towers. If you watch them come down, you'll see basically that the tops of the building simply vaporized, as did over 1,000 bodies. Over 1,000 bodies, never found any evidence of them. Almost all of the furniture in the twin towers was vaporized. How do you vaporize that? Simply with a fire, or certainly with a gravity collapse, and you don't. Actually, it has to be explosive. So basically, of course, people have to understand that most of what we're being told is not true, because the media is controlled. But watch Building 7 come down, you'll realize controlled demolition. But go right ahead, Bahman.
Yes, exactly. I agree with everything you said, Dr. Stan. But the thing is that when we try to say these things, when people try to tell the truth, they become unpopular. For some reason, people do not wish to believe them. That is correct. Right. Like yesterday, there was an article, and then we get bombarded by negative propaganda against us, and they call us conspiracy theorists and crazy people and all this. But we have to say what we believe is the truth.
Well, now, basically, were you involved with any of these other societies above the level of the Masons when you were in Iran or when you came to the United States? When did you come to the United States? Did you come here after the Shah fell, or what?
Well, after the revolution of 1979, I went to England, I was in Oxford in England, and I studied at Oxford Brookes University in the field of civil engineering. Then I opened up a construction company. I specialized in renovation of historical buildings in and around Oxford in England. It was in 1991 that after divorce I came to the United States. And a few years later I joined a Masonic lodge in Palm Springs, California. Actually, that was a lodge where President Gerald Ford was a member of. And 5 years later, I got my 32nd degree, and I became a Shriner. I was active with the Shriners, hospitals for children. No, I have never been involved with those other secret societies, but I managed to gather a lot of information from a brother who was the closest friend of my father, who actually was a member of the Lodge of the Eagle. And he was the one who told us everything. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was like drawing blood out of stone. But I managed to gather a list of 63 names of the members. He told us that there are less than 1,000 members, but I do have a list of 63, which will be released in my story called The Golden Mask. But I have explained that the Golden Mask will only be released upon my death. Why? Because that gives me the security that I need.
Well, I think that's very wise because, of course, you have to... no one can know who then has the manuscript, because that may be the one thing that will keep you alive. And when you work with this as long as I have, you realize that they kill people on a regular basis. Certainly there have been people that I've known certainly doing what I'm doing, talk radio, people like certainly William Cooper. They set a SWAT team out to get the right thing. But what is the real objective behind the Eagles and other branches of the Masonic movement above the 32nd, 33rd degree?
Yes, Dr. Stan, I would be glad to explain this according to what I know and I believe to be true. But actually, just to finish off with what we were speaking about, when these people feel that it's not in their interest to kill you, they start character assassination. Yesterday, somewhere on the internet, there was an article saying the Bahman Nassiri has claimed that he's been abducted by aliens. Now, Dr. Stan, I have said a lot of things, but I have never said that I was abducted by aliens, have I?
No, you haven't, but of course that is a very clever technique that they use in discrediting people. They know exactly how to discredit people, and how do you get the information out that you never said it? When you read it so often, people will tend to believe it, even when there's no foundation in truth. But you go right ahead.
Okay. All right. To the best of my knowledge, according to what I have gathered over more than 3 decades, there is a big plan that was drawn up long time ago. And you yourself, Dr. Stan, know when the plan was drawn up. Now, what is this plan? It is the New World Order, to have complete control over the human race. Dr. Stan, less than 1,000 people plan to have total control over 7 billion people on Earth. And the most frightening part of this plan is that they wish to reduce world population through war, involving atomic war. Now, how is all this going to happen? And as you are aware, it was written by Albert Pike in the 19th century. And the plan is to begin a huge war over the Middle East between the Muslims and the Jews. I explained in one of my interviews, I don't know if it was with you or the Hagman, that it is due to the nuclear imbalance that Israel has remained safe all these years. Now, if Iran develops its atomic warhead, I personally would try and find a location on Earth that would be relatively more safe than living close to metropolitan cities. And you know what I mean, Dr. Stan?
I certainly do. It is my contention from information we have personally that Iran already has nuclear weapons. It's just going to be not a matter of time. If you're watching the Internet today, you're seeing constant references to the fact that Iran is simply a month away from having enough nuclear material to create a bomb, 2 weeks away, 1 week away, according to Netanyahu. 1 week away? Ladies and gentlemen, we're on the brink of something major, and the average American is consumed with football, and I love football, but you have to understand that there are real problems out there, and most people have no idea what's going on. Basically, of course, there's supposed to be a great war in the Middle East coming up between the Muslims and Jews. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Bahman, you go right ahead.
Yes, this is quite frightening, and I have made a list of dozens of countries with between 50 to 99% Muslim population. People should also realize the Muslim population in Russia, in China. So what happens is if a major war involving atomic warheads begins between Israel and Iran, if Iran manufactures its nuclear head and it's an atomic war, I can explain how this could then spread all over the world and be the beginning of World War III. Because in the Muslim religion, there is what they call jihad. Jihad is when Islam is under attack, it is the duty of every Muslim to rise up and fight and defend Islam. So what is going to happen is if a war erupts between Muslims and Jews in the Middle East, all the Muslims from China to Russia to you name it where, they will all rise up. So there will be chaos all over the world, including the United States. You know, the Muslim population in this country. So we are entering a very dangerous era. Now, this is why in the Alex Jones's InfoWars interview a few days ago, because I said a sentence, I have become very unpopular. People calling me warmonger.
I am very, very concerned. I share your concern. I have perhaps a little different view of it, because I think that may well be what's going to happen, but I have no inside information other than the fact that I'm firmly convinced that Iran already has the capacity to launch an attack on both America and Israel. It's a matter of when the attack comes. It's not a matter of if it's going to come. And certainly I believe, of course, that we are living in very, very dangerous times, and I don't think that the average American has any grasp or even thought of the seriousness of the current situation. You go right ahead.
True. The Shia sect of Islam, under which I grew up, they actually look forward to Armageddon, Dr. Stan, because they believe that is when their Imam Mahdi will come back and save the world and take them all to heaven. And so these people, I mean, these fanatical Shia Muslims, they have no fear of death. They actually look forward to dying. That type of mentality is the most dangerous. And now, what can we do, the ordinary people, to stop such Holocaust from erupting? What can we do? Nothing much, not much, but except to inform people. If all this becomes common knowledge, it may prevent them from being carried out. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I think so, and I agree with you. All we can do is get the information out there, but of course, in the final analysis, we're going to have to depend upon the Lord. But you and I and other people who are informed have a responsibility to be speaking out, and I'm just so pleased that you got onto the Alex Jones program and certainly onto this other program, and I hope you get a lot more exposure because I think your message is vitally important at this time. Involves taking us into war after war because they really do want to depopulate the world. And if you haven't read my Population Control Agenda monograph, that's the Population Control Agenda. You can get that on the internet. Just type in Population Control Agenda in your search engine or put my name there, but you'll find it. Read it and understand. It's probably one of the best things available on the internet. It's a decade old. If I had time, I'd update it. But right now, we'll just let it stand as it is because everything in that I stand by. Well, anyway, because our guest is Bahman Nassiri. If you have a question for him, our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. Do you have a website or any information you'd like to get out in case people who would like more information from you would like to contact you? And of course, if you want to harass him, don't even take the information down. But do you have any sort of a site where people might be able to reach you if they were interested?
Yes, very easy, Dr. Stan. I would like to use this opportunity to encourage listeners to watch my interviews that are in form of videos on YouTube. And it's very easy. If they go on YouTube and they type in my name, and I will spell that. First name is Bahman, that's B-A-H-M-A-N, and last name is Nassiri, that's N-A-S-S-I-R-I. If they type this name in YouTube and click on the yellow rose, you're not going to miss the yellow rose. And that will take you straight to my YouTube channel where you will see all my interviews. I think they are worth watching. The interview with yourself is there, with Rick Wiles of True News, with Dan Duval, Hagman and Hagman Report, and the InfoWars, that is the Alex Jones channel, the InfoWars interview, which is the one that has caused such controversy now. It was only done 4 days ago, and I have received 40,000 views already.
Well, Alex does a great job, and we certainly congratulate him and support what he's doing. He's reaching people so much more efficiently than I do because we don't have the YouTube outlets. But the important thing is that the people understand that there really are forces working behind the scenes. Reality is usually scoffed at. Illusion is usually king. And the major driving force behind everything going on today is not the Democrats or Republicans, but it is these secret organizations working behind the scenes. And it's not simply the Masons or the Eagles or the Skull and Bones. There's a myriad of organizations, literally dozens of them, but they all bound together by the same intense hatred of Christianity and certainly this desire to bring about a one-world government and certainly a one-world financial system and a one-world religion with the destruction of Christianity, which is why they've taken God and prayer and the Ten Commandments and out of our schools, mention of Christmas and Easter. Basically, there is no wall of separation of church and state in our Constitution. It was created by the Masons who controlled the Supreme Court in 1962 because they wanted to destroy the Christian foundation of this nation. That was 50 years ago, and they've done a great job of it today, and you can see the end result as the temple of crime and certainly of violence and of murder and of rape and of homosexuality and all the breakdown of the moral structure of society is increasing certainly exponentially. Well, our telephone number, if you have a question for Bahman or a comment, our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. But don't get discouraged, Bahman. If they're not attacking you, you're not doing a good job. So the fact that you're getting attacked means that, of course, your message is getting out. People are listening, and, of course, they would hope to strike fear in your heart. Do not let them do that. You're going to have to depend upon our Lord, because that's the only thing that's going to sustain either you or me or any of our listeners, because I think we're moving into very difficult times. And sometime within this certainly next year, or perhaps even less, very difficult times are coming. Well, we've got somebody calling from Glenn calling in from Philadelphia. Again, our number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. Glenn, do you have a question or comment for our guest?
Yes, hi. Just a comment. I'm sorry to hear that he's run into such opposition. Just by voicing an opinion, but it's hardly possible to voice opinions on these matters without having someone angry shout you down one way or another. But I wanted to point out just a few things. I personally am an American Christian. I really don't have much of a dog in the fight between the Shiites or the Sunnis, or I know these various nation states are pitted somewhat against each other. But I don't really think that changing a national government at this point is going to make the difference in the situation. The government of Iran is a signature of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and they allow International Atomic Energy Agency inspections, which is more than I can say for Israel. Israel says it will not sign the treaty and does not allow inspections. It's very doubtful that they plan, I think, on building a bomb. They could certainly have purchased them, and they haven't, started a war of conquest in over 200 years, and over 20,000 Jews live safely within their borders unmolested.
You're absolutely right, Glenn. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens, but I think we're heading into a very difficult situation, because I think there's supernatural forces that are going to precipitate a war there, and I really believe we'll have a war in that area involving Israel and Iran within a year. I hope and pray that I'm wrong. But God bless. Thanks very much.
Take care. Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine, and let's go ahead. Let's see who we have. We have Annette calling from West Virginia.
Go ahead.
Hi, Annette. Go ahead. Do you have a question or comment?
Calling from West Virginia. Go ahead.
Annette, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, Dr. Monteith. I appreciate your program so much when I could get to hear it. I have a serious question about the fact that I wonder why our broadcasters, conservative Christian broadcasters, are not mentioning that Christianity is actually in our Constitution under Article 6, Section 1, which essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but it said that all debts and engagements entered into prior to the Constitution were made that were part of the Articles of Confederation became part of the Constitution. Our Christian heritage was part of the Articles of Confederation. Our laws were based on biblical law. So these liberals or antichrists, however you want to call them, who keep insisting that we can't talk Christianity or biblical law because it's not in the Constitution. They're wrong.
You're absolutely right, Annette. You're absolutely right. There is a conspiracy against Christianity at the highest levels of our government in both political parties, and unfortunately, it involves the key people in our Supreme Court today. Absolutely right. God bless you. Thanks very much for calling. Let's go to Sandy, calling in from Washington. Sandy, do you have a question for our guest? Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I do, Dr. Stan. I heard him the last time you had him on, and I was so intrigued by this eagle thing. And I went to the coin shop to get some coins from my taxes, and there was a man there that had a big, I call it a coin. It was round. It was about 2 inches across. And come to find out, it was a Masonic thing. It must have been close to 100 years old because he was very elderly, and it was his grandma and grandpa's. And it had all these symbols that you've been talking about. Across the top, it said, "Let there be light," which I thought was very blasphemous because, that's what God said in the beginning. In the center of this coin or memorial thing, whatever it was a candle with a hand holding the candle with all these light rays coming out. To the right of it was a double-headed eagle with a triangle on its belly, and to the left of that candle was a compass and a square. And then I turned it over. On the back was one of these large double-headed eagles, and on top of that, right above it was a crown, and above that was a triangle with a 33 in it. And I'm curious, what is this double-headed eagle about?
All right, Bahman, do you have any thoughts at all on that? Because, of course, symbology is such an important part of the occult movement today manifested by the Masons. What is the significance of the double-headed eagle? Do you have any idea? Because I've noticed this many times myself.
Well, the double-headed eagle, the jewel that the lady has seen represents the 33rd degree, the highest degree of the Scottish rite of Freemasonry. But that is not anything to do with the Lodge of the Eagles I'm talking about, because that is not the double-headed eagle. Now, what does the double-headed eagle mean? I am not allowed to reveal that. But one head is looking to the west. One head of the eagle is looking to the west, and the other is looking to the east. But details of that I'm not allowed to reveal.
Okay, basically, I'm sure this is one of those Masonic secrets that cannot be let out. Anything else you wanted to ask Sandy before we let you go?
The crown. The crown reminded me almost of something that you would see on a British ruler, and I was curious about that too.
All right, find out. Can you at liberty to talk about the crown that certainly is symbolized on some of the Masonic artwork?
Well, can I add a comment here?
Oh, certainly you can.
I think the lady has a very high IQ.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Bob.
Dr. Stan, I appreciate you having me on your program again, and I would like also to again use this opportunity to clear any misunderstandings that my interviews may have caused between me and my Masonic brethren. I have said nothing in my interviews against the Masonic order. I have said it time and time again that Masons are good men who do a lot of charity, and they are not devil worshippers and any of the things that have been written on the internet. But I have explained that Masons are unaware of the power that is above them. They are unaware of that.
And I think you're absolutely right, and I just really believe that statement by Manly P. Hall in his book on ancient Lectures in Ancient Philosophy, I think, is the source of it. Anyway, it's quoted in my book, Brotherhood of Darkness. But basically, what Manly P. Hall said is that Masonry is a religion within a religion, an outer force, and then this inner force. And basically, I think this is absolutely true. I don't think the average Mason has any idea what this is really all about. And but the people who move to the higher levels of above the 33rd degree do. The average Mason certainly is trying to do good. And so I think we have to understand that rather than attack them personally, to show the danger those people should never be part of a secret society, because there are always secrets there that even many of the people who think they know the secrets don't. And it's certainly, if you read my book, Brotherhood of Darkness, where I simply quote certainly Albert Pike, writing back in the 1870s, saying, our purpose is to mislead the Masons. To mislead the Masons, to tell them one thing when that really isn't true. And this is how Masonry works and how they're able to recruit so many good people. Anything else, Sandy, before we let you go?
Just one other quick thing, and that is the fact that you're always talking about, this supernatural that is the evil that is above this. And I see that so much on the Masonic symbols. Even like on the back of the dollar bill, the triangle at the top with the eye in it, it's got the light rays, which is supposedly supposed to be Lucifer's all-seeing eye. I've also heard that speaks of the Illuminati being the illumined ones. And then here on this coin, you had the candle with these light rays. And it just reminds me of the verse that says Lucifer is transformed as an angel of light. So people beware.
Sandy, go to our website, and we have a whole section there on symbology. It's excellent. RadioLiberty.com, and look up the section on symbols, okay?
Thank you very much.
God bless. Okay, fine. Well, certainly we're drawing towards the end of the program. Bahman, what is the message you would like to leave with our listeners out across America, indeed all across the world? I'm sure we have listeners in Iran, and we have them in Israel. I know we have a lot of listeners in Israel. What's the message you'd like to leave with them?
The message I'd like to give is that I truly believe now that since 5 months ago that I turned Christian, the light of Christ is behind me, helping me for my voice to be heard across the U.S. I truly believe in that. And I encourage your listeners to go to my YouTube channel and watch my interviews. God bless you all.